something crazy is obviously going to happen with the economy next year, whether it's provoked by a cyber attack or whatever. The way the UN, UNICEF, World Food Program has set up all of their stuff for humanitarian aid is the WorldCoin model, which is scan your eyeball and we give you a digital ID, and that tells us whether or not you eat or not. You know, if you want to get your rations, you have to go to wherever the rations are and have your eyeball scanned. And if there's a mistake in the system and it decides you're not you, no food for you. And this has happened in India's digital ID system, Aadhaar, to like a significant degree, and they haven't fixed it and they don't do anything about it. And they justified it by saying that like people's data will be safer and more secure. It's the most easily hackable thing in the world. There was like a big time like Indian CEO guy that was like, I'm publicly gonna like put up my Aadhaar ID number and like look how safe it is, and it was like hacked in like 10 minutes and people like trolled the crud out of him. You know, I mean, it's a joke. But they need to manufacture consent for all of this stuff. And the way they're going to do that is fear and panic. There's obviously going to be some sort of national security crisis they have to create to bring in that fear and panic, but they're creating the base issues on purpose. I mean, it's an intentional decision to have the border in that state. And it's not just happening in the US, it's like a broader thing, just like digital ID is like a global.
A complete collapse is coming for the economy. Whether it will collapse under the unprecedented levels of debt or for some other reason, a collapse is a mathematical certainty. That's the message out from investigative journalist Whitney Webb. In her latest interview, she discussed the intricate dance of economics, technology, and control in our modern era. As we move through 2024, we look forward to a year filled with uncertainty, and Whitney warns of potential economic turmoil, potentially provoked by a planned cyber attack on the internet or another crisis. Whitney argues the endgame is to take away personal freedoms and have total control. She highlights a global push for digital IDs and programmable money, but it will all be pushed under the guise of safety, security, and convenience. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Whitney breaks down if Bitcoin and crypto could be the antidote for what is coming. Also guys, if you want to stay most up to date on the crypto and Bitcoin world, make sure to subscribe to my daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It gives the latest expert predictions, any breaking news, and top on-chain analysis all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now. Now here's Whitney Webb with her warning for the future.
And, you know, talking about the geopolitical stuff, you know, the divide here of, you know, BRICS versus the West, specifically like US, UK, Israel, Europe, the EU, they all agree on digital ID. So like, yeah, there's this geopolitical tension stuff at one level, but go another level up, they all agree about some sort of surveillable programmable money. Maybe in the US, it's synthetic CBDCs. In China and the BRICS countries, it's direct issue CBDC. They all agree about digital IDs that are biometric. They all agree on Agenda 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. Yeah. And what's interesting about that, well, to take it back to the article in Fluent Finance, the United Arab Emirates, what are they setting up financially? What is Fluent Finance after Farmington gets shut down specifically doing in the United Arab Emirates? They're the connective tissue between the CBDCs, direct issue CBDCs of BRICS land, and the synthetic CBDCs of the West and the deposit tokens. That's what they're setting up. That's what Fluent Finance is doing in the UAE right now with R3. That's partnered with the DTCC for the securities stuff that Mark was talking about earlier, and doing the central bank digital currency for the UAE. And a host of other countries that are interoperable with a lot of other ones specifically being overseen by the BIS. These MCBD projects for like multi-CBDC projects about interoperability. The goal is to have, you know, Corda, the R3 DLT, right? Have that as much run on that as possible, but what doesn't run on that will be interoperable with that. So interoperability is like a key thing to watch out for. And a lot of these companies like Fluent Finance, for example, are developing this stuff and like no one has noticed, which I think is kind of interesting. Like a lot of people that are so focused on CBDCs and they're a threat to human freedom and all of this are just pointing the finger at like BRICS and not paying attention to any of these other countries really. They're just like BIS bad, but like, yeah, you know, Wall Street has plans for this too. And like, they're not good either. Like Jamie Dimon and Jerome Powell are not coming to the rescue, guys. They're creating the same system under a different name.
Well, it's funny you mention that because
Jamie Dimon programming my dollars to expire and tying it to my carbon credits or whatever is not any better than Jerome Powell or I don't know, Janet Yellen doing it. I mean, it's all the same garbage. You know, what I think is interesting too, to take this back to FTX too, you know, in light of their team up with Fluent Finance and what Fluent Finance has gone on to do, I really am curious, and I don't really know if there's any way to know now, but you know, all those donations and cozying up to like, you know, Elizabeth Warren and all these other like lawmakers by FTX executives, or Ryan Salome cozying up with the Republicans and stuff. Like, was this to have them favor the stablecoin FTX was going to team up with, which seems to have been Fluent Finance's US Plus, like to favor them as like, you know, the stablecoin issuer of choice for the synthetic CBDC? Pretty interesting possibility there, because a lot of it thought it was just like, oh, crypto regulation to favor FTX and SBF and stuff. But I think there's a lot of bigger plays that have been going on here for some time, and I think people ignoring these kind of actors, we're doing ourselves a disservice. If you look at the people who created Fluent Finance, the main guy, Bradley Allgood, used to work for like NATO and like military intelligence stuff, and then immediately starts making special economic zones out of a building on this Indian reservation in South Carolina to like replace Delaware as a place where like companies register to like get tax advantages and stuff. And and then goes on to team up with this guy, Oliver Gale, who is a failed reggae artist who claims to be the inventor of CBDCs. And the other guy was with him in that first CBDC project in Barbados. So the inventors of CBDC team up with like NATO spook guy to create the SBF stablecoin. That's what was going on before FTX collapsed. And so, yeah, maybe SBF is like out of the picture and whatever, but this isn't going away. Like Fluent Finance, okay, yeah, we can't do the thing with Moonstone and with Chalopine and Deltec and FTX, but we can do it with R3, which was partnered with, you know, Fluent Finance like pretty much from the very beginning, because R3 started off as a consortium of like some of the biggest banks in the world, and their backers are still the biggest banks in the world. And there's a lot of overlap between how Fluent Finance started and those same banks that back R3, specifically Citibank, HSBC, and Barclays, which if you know the history of any of those banks, not good. And then you have Bradley Allgood, the Fluent Finance guy, like publishing op-eds and Cointelegraph and stuff, being like, CBDCs would be great if they put Wall Street in charge. That's literally what it says. I mean, it's just, they're telling you, but no one's paying attention because they're like, look, these Fed chairs are saying we're not going to do a digital dollar, and that means freedom wins in the good old USA. No, what happens in the USA is that Wall Street steals from everyone and funnels the money to the oligarch class and leaves everyone dirt poor. That's what they're going to do. You know, I think Tether's recent overtures. I think Tether's recent overtures to like, you know, onboarding the Secret Service and the FBI and all of this stuff, freezing all of these wallets on behalf of the US government. This is them trying to curry favor so they don't get totally nuked by regulations and they can be like a de facto synthetic CBDC. And I'm sure USDC is looking to do the same, you know, and that's why I mentioned earlier, like, what were these SBF political donations potentially really about? To be like, who, you know, the people that develop the regulations and enforce them are going to be the kingmakers of like which stable coins are the de facto CBDC or CBDCs, right? And, you know, I think that's something to look for here. I mean, which one is it going to be? I mean, like Mark brought up in talking to the Paxos guy, saying like he didn't think like Tether and USDC was going to make it past regulation. Like, obviously, in my opinion, that's what SBF and Chalopine thought, because, you know, FTX, Deltec, very tied up with Tether for a very long time. Like, very connected. So why are they moving from $1 pegged stablecoin to another? Well, the big difference between Tether and US Plus is that US Plus like overemphasizes regulation and CBDC compatibility and trust and reserves and all of this stuff. It's a trusted tether. It's a trustworthy tether, right? I mean, I wouldn't really say it's actually trustworthy because it's working with the same shady people, right? So, I mean, but they want that public perception to be there. And obviously, I think the gambit was to sell that to regulators and be like, look, this Citigroup backed US plus stablecoin and whatever is compliant and compatible with CBDCs. It can be used for trade, cross-border finance all over the world. And look, R3 in the UAE, and they're going to be the bridge between BRICS and the Western countries and all this stuff. I mean, I'm sure those conversations have been had behind closed doors, you know? And then one thing I think we didn't mention really quick on why the digital dollar is going to be this and not like a direct issue CBDC. Like if the Fed was going to do a direct issue CBDC, they're really behind. Like that would take them multiple years to roll out, and they need this stuff a lot sooner.
Yeah.
So as CIA spooks, literal CIA veterans focused on this kind of stuff have said in publication from think tanks like CSIS is like, we have to use the digital dollars that are already here. We can't make a CBDC.
And what does that mean? It means like they're close to structural insolvency and systemic collapse.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So there's Whitney Webb, and if anything is clear, it's that the future of our economy hangs in a delicate balance. Whitney's insights about the impending collapse driven by debt and control mechanisms serve as a sobering reminder of the challenges ahead. As we navigate through the uncertainties of 2024, Whitney's warning of a potential economic turmoil, whether through cyber attacks or other crises, resonates deeply. The push for digital IDs and programmable money, cloaked in the guise of safety and convenience, underscores the erosion of personal freedom in our modern world. But amidst these challenges, Whitney poses a thought-provoking question. Could Bitcoin and cryptocurrency offer a viable antidote to the impending crisis? Right now, it's the best option. Also guys, if you want to stay ahead of the curve in the ever-evolving world of crypto and Bitcoin, don't forget to subscribe to our daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It has expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis delivered straight to your inbox, and you'll be well equipped to navigate the turbulent waters of the digital economy. Click the first link in the description to join over 50,000 others in mastering the art of crypto investing. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value. I'll see you all on the next one, and as always, all the best.